Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, TheRumpledOne. A few traders, in fact, probably more than a few traders, sometimes ask me about the dashboard and how to do certain functions. And it's the TRO 2017 TRO dashboard. And I haven't changed the name. And the one reason I haven't changed the name, even though I'm still sending it out in 2020, it's back in 2017, is if you've got a bunch of templates and I change the name, um, then you're going to have to either go in and change the templates or redo the templates, and that's not going to be any fun. And number two, I've got an idea how to do almost a complete rewrite of it, but I haven't decided to actually start on that rewrite because it's going to take a lot of time considering there's over 100 and some functions in the dashboard. But I wanted to teach how to use the divergence function. And actually, once you learn how to do that, there's some other functions you'll be able to also take advantage of. But just remember, these videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. Trading is extremely risky. You can lose all of your money. If you need trading, investment, or financial advice, seek the advice of an accredited financial professional. So, divergence, and how do you set it up in the dashboard? And basically, what divergence is when you have an oscillator on the bottom and price is making a new high, but the oscillator is making a lower high, or vice versa. The price is making a lower low, but the oscillator is making a higher low. And so that's what divergence is all about. And some people like to trade those signals. And so here we've got the dashboard set up for divergence on the OSMA and also on the MACD. And I don't have those indicators on the bottom because it would hide it. But what the indicator divergence function is telling you, so here on the dollar yen, we have positive divergence on the OSMA 18 bars ago and positive divergence on the MACD 2 bars ago. So as you can see here on the daily, it's making lower lows, but obviously it's making higher values on these two indicators. So how do you set it up in the dashboard? Well, you come to the dashboard and you choose the divergence function. So there's lots of different functions, but we're going to be using the divergence function. Then you give it a heading, and the heading is IOSMA. Why do you have to do it like this? Because what you're telling the indicator, the dashboard, to do is, I want to do the divergence function on the internal OSMA indicator. And so if you look at the spreadsheet I sent you, the dashboard inputs, it has all the inputs and what it does, and then the parameters in the indicator. So if you come down in divergence, it says divergence, use heading for internal indicator name. So, and then you come down here to the internal indicators, and they start with the lowercase I. Now, of course, some of these indicators, it doesn't make sense to put divergence on it, okay? But of course, some of it does. So, for example, in MACD, the moving averages convergence divergence indicator, you see you have to give it these parameters: the EMA period, fast and slow, and the signal line period. Then you tell it if you want to use applied price and what out of that indicator, what buffer you want to use, and the shift. But for the most part, you don't have to worry about those last two. So when you actually look at the indicator, you just do the normal in the divergence for MACD, more 12, 26, 9. That's the standard. And you don't worry about the rest of those inputs. And so here it's I, little I, and then capital MACD for the MACD. And that's how you set it up. And then it'll tell you the most recent divergence. So as you can see, it might look complex, but when you take it down to the simplest pieces, it's really not. So for the OSMA, you would come here, and it's the moving average of the oscillator indicator. And once again, you do the same. Parameter 3, fast EMA period. Parameter 4, slow EMA period. Parameter 5, the signal line period. And normally you use applied price. And once again, you can have a shift. But when we actually look at the indicator, we just use the normal default. And so right here, you can see we're going to use the current period, whichever period you have your chart on. We give it the heading to tell it what to do. So this is important. You have to spell it correctly, because when the computer looks at capital letters and small letters are not the same inside the computer. So you give it the name, and then it does the rest for you, telling you that there's divergence. So it's really not that difficult. So I urge you to look at that inputs file, because it tells you all of the different inputs that are out there for the dashboard. And so, for example, if I wanted to use relative strength indicator, if I wanted to add another column, what I would do is I'd come down, and so I see it says none, and let's say I used column 9, column 10, and by the way, you can specify column numbers over and over. So if I call this column 9, we'll see where it puts it. I'm not going to tell you where it puts it. Okay, so what we want is divergence. The indicator heading is R, the little I, capital RSI, and let's do a 2-period RSI, so RSI 2. And so you can see here RSI appeared here. So the first column 9 that it comes to, it's going to put it here. And then the second column 9 it comes to, it'll put it here. Because the way the indicator works, it paints it from right to left. So the highest would be over here and the lowest would be over here. So you don't have to re-input these. So if you wanted to put RSI on the other side, instead of calling it column 9, you can call it column 8. And you see it moves the column there. Simple. So you can see here we've got a negative divergence 7 bars ago with the RSI 2. And that's how it works. And this little, we can chart shift, move that over, drag that little triangle there over to get the chart out of the dashboard area. And also if you come down to properties and you look at the grid, if you turn that to none, it gets rid of that line right here. So it's not really that difficult to use the dashboard. There's, like I said, there's 120 some functions, but chances are you're probably only going to use 1 or 2 of them, or maybe you might use a little bit more, but that's up to each trader. There's so much stuff in there. You can really dive into it and play. And just remember, you save things as a template, so you really can't mess things up too bad. There's only a couple functions, like the strength function, that eats up memory, so you probably only want to use it once or twice. But if you've got a whole bunch of columns out here, it can really drag the computer down, such as VWAP. It took me months to figure that one out. but it'll, because of all the calculations VWAP has to do. So I hope that helps. Feel free to ask questions. And if you ever have a problem, putting together a dashboard, tell me what you want and I can make the template and send it out to you and send it out to everybody, because maybe somebody else might want to use that template also. And feel free, to post templates, but don't post my code. Don't post the indicators out there. And I don't think there was really any other questions on the dashboard that have come up recently. So I hope that helps. And just remember, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. And thanks again. Appreciate the donations.